Donald Trump is destroying Black history in front of our very eyes. While we are distracted with gas prices and groceries,
Are the prices that you're paying at the grocery store and gas pump going down? Pitt County residents are voicing their opinions today after a post on Truth Social from President Trump said that grocery and egg prices have improved.
something sinister is unfolding in the background. In March 2025, President Trump's administration began directly targeting enslavement exhibits at the National Museum of African American History. This is, of course, under the guise of an executive order titled Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History. Trump's cabinet is systematically dismantling Black history institutions nationwide. What truth are they exactly restoring? This is just the same lost cause narrative that's been trying to whitewash America's racist past for generations. And the most disturbing part in all of this is that nobody's talking about it. Let's start with the first thing on Trump's crosshairs: the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Just a few years ago, a high school teacher named Adam Sanchez stood with his students in the lower level of the museum, where the story of enslavement and the Middle Passage is told. He watched as tears streamed down one student's face. The class gathered in a quiet space, processing what they've just witnessed. Everyone understood why he had tears in his eyes. Sanchez later said, "I knew that the museum was going to bring this history to life in a way that you couldn't in the classroom, and it certainly did. And this was only one of the many stories that happen here. For millions of Black Americans, this wasn't just a building with artifacts. It was a testament to survival, resistance, and the persistence of the Black spirit. But now, Trump's executive order has put this vital institution in trouble. The order claims that the Smithsonian Institution, including the museum in question, has come under the influence of divisive, race-centered ideology. It demands the removal of what it calls improper ideology from these hallowed halls. The truth about enslavement, according to this administration, makes America look bad, as if the history of America was rainbows and butterflies to begin with, something President Trump refuses to acknowledge. But here's the irony in all of this. This same museum was championed by Republican President George W. Bush, who signed the bill authorizing its federal funding. At its grand opening in 2016, Bush stood alongside Barack Obama, delivering passionate speeches supporting the museum's mission. Imagine that, two people from opposing parties came together to actually give respect to the history that built this nation. That's because they understood what Trump doesn't, that facing our history, however painful, makes America stronger. But there's something even more sinister at work here. The executive order doesn't just target the enslavement exhibits. It aims to fundamentally change how American history is presented. It demands that all public monuments and museums do not contain descriptions, depictions, or other content that inappropriately disparage Americans' past or living. In other words, if the truth makes people uncomfortable, the truth has to go. The museum's founding director, Lonnie Bunch, spent years collecting over 40,000 artifacts to tell their story. He created a space that celebrates not just the struggles, but also the joys, the culture, and the triumphs of the African American experience. Now, with a single signature, Trump is threatening to sanitize this history, to make it more comfortable for those who'd rather not face the truth. But the war on Black history isn't just happening in museums. In January 2025, President Trump's administration sent an official message to all federal departments and offices. The message, addressed to department leads and key personnel, seemed bureaucratic on the surface, but its contents were chilling. Create a plan for eliminating DEI employees from the federal workforce. The departments were given until January 31st to complete this task. But Trump's administration couldn't even wait that long. A second message soon followed, and it was more urgent than the first. This one didn't just ask for plans. It ordered department leaders to begin firing DEI employees immediately. According to Trump, this move was meant to stop what he called racism within the government. He labeled these DEI programs, initiated by President Joe Biden, as both illegal and immoral. When he signed the executive orders to dismantle them, he referred to DEI as an identity-based spoil system. claiming it robbed hard-working Americans of job opportunities. And by hard-working Americans, he meant white Americans. And this attack on diversity didn't stop at government doors. The executive order encouraged federal agencies to explore ways to influence the private sector to eliminate their own DEI initiatives. The goal was to dismantle diversity programs across the entire country, and we're already seeing the impact. Major companies like McDonald's, Meta, Target, and Walmart have responded to this pressure. Walmart, for example, shut down a racial equity center it had created in 2020, an initiative that had received $100 million in investment. The decision to abandon this project was made under federal pressure. At one time in this country, Black people were enslaved. They were looked down upon. White people saw themselves as superior, but our people fought for freedom. In the late 1800s, they achieved emancipation. Still, racism persisted. White mobs stormed Black towns, burning them to the ground. Yet Black people continued to fight for their rights. In the early 1900s, we saw countless Black heroes rise up and advocate for our community. Over time, their efforts led to critical progress. By dismantling these programs, Donald Trump isn't just cutting jobs. He's trying to erase the progress we've made, and with it, a part of Black history. The two executive orders aimed at DEI pose a serious threat to the diversity we've achieved in both government and the private sector. But this systematic dismantling of Black progress isn't happening in isolation. It's part of a broader agenda, one that reaches far beyond office buildings and corporate boardrooms. What makes this attack on Black history so dangerous is its subtlety. The executive order doesn't explicitly ban the teaching of enslavement or segregation. It doesn't outright forbid museums from discussing civil rights, but instead, it does something far more insidious. It uses federal funding as a weapon. Under the order, any museum or institution receiving government funds must undergo an ideological review. A team handpicked by the administration will examine every exhibit, every educational program, and every historical text. Their job is to basically identify and remove what they call divisive narratives that undermine national cohesion. The order prohibits spending on exhibits or programs that degrade shared American values, divide Americans based on race, or promote programs or ideologies inconsistent with federal law and policy. In other words, if you want to keep your funding, you better make history more comfortable. We're already seeing this strategy at work. On the National Park Service's Underground Railroad websites, there have been subtle but noticeable changes in how Harriet Tubman's story is framed. Harriet Tubman was a woman who, after escaping enslavement herself, became the most famous conductor of the Underground Railroad, risking her life countless times to lead enslaved people to freedom. The National Museum of African American History and Culture even holds her shawl, a tangible piece of resistance against oppression. According to recent reports, where her image was once prominently featured in content about the Underground Railroad, some of those materials have been revised or reframed under the broader theme of Black-white cooperation. Her picture and name haven't been entirely erased, but they are being softened, reframed, or relocated. These efforts don't explicitly erase her story, but they do attempt to soften it, to remove its radical edge and reduce it to something more palatable for those who would rather forget the reality of American history. But it gets worse. The order specifically critiques exhibits like The Shape of Power, Stories of Race and American Sculpture at the Smithsonian American Art Museum. Why? Because it dares to acknowledge that societies, including the United States, have used race to establish and maintain systems of white supremacy. But the museums and memorials are just surface-level symbols. Underneath them lies a deeper battle, one over who holds the power to define what America is and what it has been. While the nation debates whether the order is legal or ethical, the impact is already visible, and this went beyond just race. Some museums are restructuring their exhibits. One notable example is the Smithsonian American Women's History Museum, which has been directed by the executive order to exclude the recognition of transgender women entirely. The order mandates that the museum celebrate the achievements of women and not recognize men as women in any respect, effectively erasing the contributions and identities of trans women from the historical narrative. Others are preemptively censoring their panels. Tour guides are being told to avoid certain questions. Whole chapters of the American story are being shortened, softened, or skipped. I'd love to hear from you. Have you noticed these kinds of subtle changes in your own community, schools, or museums? Go ahead and drop your thoughts in the comments below. This is the state of the U.S. right now, a nation built on the labor, suffering, and resilience of people who still haven't received the justice they were promised. But Trump's executive orders don't stop at rewriting history. They reach into other areas of life where Black Americans attempt to thrive. Take education. Trump's executive orders are undermining support systems that disproportionately benefit historically Black colleges, institutions that have long been underfunded. Now, with freezes on federal loans and grants, it's becoming even harder for Black students to access financial aid and pursue higher education. And with DEI programs dismantled, the pipeline for hiring and retaining Black faculty is at risk. The assault on job opportunities is equally severe. Remember those apprenticeship programs championed by President Obama? The ones that specifically helped Black Americans who didn't attend college find paths into the federal workforce. Trump's orders have undermined them all. His administration has also revoked protections that helped Black employees in the federal workforce, making it easier for discriminatory practices, including layoffs targeting Black workers, to go unchecked. Even in healthcare, the systematic erasure continues. Black Americans already face disproportionately high rates of preventable disease. Without these programs tracking and addressing these disparities, health outcomes for our communities could worsen. This pattern of erasure extends to housing and economic stability. The administration has slashed funding for anti-homelessness efforts, specifically targeting the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness. This council played a crucial role in supporting unhoused individuals, a large percentage of whom are Black. Defunding it puts more Black families at risk of homelessness. These changes make it harder for Black families to stay in the middle class, worsening the already persistent racial wealth gap. But perhaps the most alarming part is this: the erasure isn't slowing down. Every new executive order, every funding cut, every dismantled program sends a signal, not just about how the past is treated, but about who gets to have a future. And this isn't just happening in Washington. One U.S. state is quietly following the same playbook, scrubbing Black history from its schools, censoring educators, and rewriting curriculums behind closed doors. If you thought this problem couldn't get any worse, think again. Click here to watch this video.